Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified Podcast, your home for all things Washington Commanders. We're going to pause for 2 seconds, let you hit the subscribe button. Ready, pause. All right. Hopefully you did it successfully. We are back on a playoff week. It has been so long since we've been able to say that, but we're officially in the playoffs. Eric, do you have a playoff dance that you do? You can show the audience.
The playoff dance.
Yeah.
I'm so old. My playoff dance is the Icky Shuffle.
Oh.
Not the Geico version either. I'm talking about the OG 1988 version of the Icky Shuffle. That's my no. I don't have a. I try to avoid dancing if at all possible. And if you've ever seen me dance, you'll understand why. Although
Mike,
I can do a mean rerun dance.
Oh, let's see it. Let's go.
You can't really do it when I'm sitting here, but yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I can do the pop and lock or the locking. What is it? Popping? Can't remember which one it is, but the rerun I can do. You got to wear suspenders and a beret to really make it work. But one of these days, you guys might see it.
If the Commanders win against the Bucs, Eric is going to do his rerun dance live on air next week. How about that? Mike, what's your go-to playoff dance?
I don't have any. The most I can do is the most I can give you is the little TikTok dance that Jayden Daniels hit a couple of times this year. The little wait, they don't love you like I love you. That's all I can give. The younger crowd know what I'm talking about, but that's all I can do.
Full disclosure, I've never once been on TikTok, but I do see the clips on Twitter and stuff like that. But my playoff dance is probably more or less the robot, just the arm aspect of it. And that's it. And there it goes. Anyway.
Cabbage patch for y'all.
Oh, we can do the cabbage.
Running man. Okay.
Harlem Shake.
I always wanted to be that guy that just stands in the middle of the party and does this, but I was never cool
and hope the light flickers because it makes you look like you're doing something cool.
Yeah. Money raining down, but yeah, it's never been me.
Oh man. So we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. It's going to be a warm game, I think in the 60s-ish in Tampa Bay. Eric, off the bat, how excited are you that the Commanders made the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I extremely. I mean, it's not none of us really saw this coming. I think we were all between 7 and 9 wins when we were doing our predictions earlier this year. I was on the 7 side of it, so I've all season long I've considered this first year of a rebuild. I still think it is. I just think they've just far exceeded expectations and had some breaks go their way. So I'm very excited. I like the fact that this team, for the most part, has beaten the teams that it should beat. With the exception of one game against Dallas, they really, every game that they against the team that they should have beaten, they were able to beat. And then they surprised us a few times with some big wins against some squads that maybe they shouldn't have beat. But so it's been good. It's been a good season to run. I hope it's not over this week. I hope we can continue going on. I've been saying for a while, I really just want to see a playoff win because, we've been to the playoffs plenty of times, for us plenty of times, but we haven't won anything in 20 years. So it's nice to, take care of that, get that monkey off the bat right away in Jayden's young career, Dan Quinn's tenure here, and Josh Harris's tenure here. Just get a playoff win out of the way and build from that. Anything after that would be gravy, but it would be a shame to see the season end just after one playoff game.
Yeah, it can go two ways too, because you can create these expectations that if Jayden doesn't win another playoff game for 3 years, is he regressing? I've seen that too. But I'm going to take what I can get, and I agree with you, Eric. Let's just get the wins under the belt so we can reestablish expectations. Mike, a 12-win season. Did you think it was possible, man? How good does it feel to be a 12-win team?
It feels good, man. I can't even hold y'all. It feels good. Of course, I didn't think it was possible. I know somebody was predicting the 12-win season last year, or was it this year? I can't remember. And I clowned them for doing it. But the fact that it actually happened, I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. Now, sure, we may have been fortunate with the schedule and whatnot, but each season is its own season. If NFL Films comes out with a Commanders 2024 season, regardless of the finish, they should name it Ebbs and Flows. because that's exactly what this season has taught me. And it's still like every Commander season has taught me something about the game of football. And before this season even ends, what I learned this year is that each season is its own independent season. It doesn't matter what you did the year before. It's its own independent season. I don't mean to veer too far off track, but let's take a look at Kansas City for a second. They're the multiple time reigning back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions. Their season may not have been a good season, but they still went 15-2 and probably are still the Super Bowl favorites right now. Now, sure, it may have something to do with their past or whatever, but they can rely on their past because, again, they're defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions. But when you look at a team like Baltimore, they can't think about last season. Hell, they can't even think about this. They can't think about this regular season. They have to focus on the playoffs itself, and the same thing with the Commanders. But it's good to be ahead of schedule in the reconstruction, and we should just accept whatever happens this playoffs for what it is this season, and then we can start talking about next season. But for right now, all that matters is the rest of this season. You won't hear me talk about the draft or anything until after the playoffs. I promise y'all.
Who we taking in the second round, Mike? No, I'm just kidding. Eric, what did you think when you heard or found out that we were going to play the Bucs in round one?
Not my favorite matchup. I personally would have preferred Philly again. Maybe because I'm a masochist. I don't know. I just think the familiarity with Philly is a little, is a good thing. The Bucs are an interesting matchup because they have a lot of weapons and they have a lot of strengths that are the Commanders' weaknesses. So we're going to have to see how that goes, but I don't 100% love this matchup. A healthy Marshawn Lattimore this week will make me feel a lot better about it, especially if he's healthy the whole game, which has not been the case pretty much since he's been here. But yeah, if you can, Marshawn Lattimore on Mike Evans is a lot better than Benjamin St. Juste on Mike Evans. I think it's going to be a long day if that's the case. So hopefully Marshawn can get healthy this week. But yeah, I could maybe see it coming a little bit last week as far as the matchup goes, because you knew the Rams, once they're in, they're gonna rest their guys. They've got an older roster; they need the rest. So it was kind of a business decision by Sean McVay to rest his guys, and then with all the Bucs needed to do was beat a bad New Orleans team, which they struggled a little bit, but they did beat them. So, yeah, you could kind of see the matchup coming once those decisions were made. But, yeah, it is what it is. The season started in Tampa. Hopefully it doesn't end in Tampa. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And speaking of Tampa Bay was 10-7 on the year. They won their final game against the Saints, I believe it was, last Sunday to lock in where they are. They are led by Baker Mayfield. If you remember, he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, had some up and down seasons, and then just has really found his home in Tampa Bay. He has 4,500 yards on the season. He has 41 passing touchdowns and 16 interceptions. He's been sacked 40 times, but has also contributed on the ground for 378 rushing yards. And let's see, he has 9 fumbles, but has only lost 1, actually. They have a multi-dimensional rushing attack with Bucky Irving, our favorite rookie running back. We talked about him quite a bit on this podcast before the draft. He has rushed for 1,100 yards this year, averages 5.4 yards a carry, 8 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, 1 loss. And what's crazy is he's not even truly their primary back. At least he didn't start the season that way, because they have Rachaad White. Rachaad White has 613 yards. Bucky Irvin obviously took over that role later in the season. He has 3 touchdowns himself, and both of the running backs contribute to the passing game as well. Their receiving corps is led by none other than Mike Evans, who tied Jerry Rice, or just broke Jerry Rice's record for the most number of consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start your career. He had barely just over 1,002 at 1,004. They have a tight end in Otten. He has 600 yards, 4 touchdowns. Luckily for us, not for him, Chris Godwin is out for the season because he was absolutely on fire before he got hurt. I think it was week 7. They also have an impressive rookie, McMillan, who has 461 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. Speaking of the running backs in the pass game, Rachaad White has about 400 yards, and so does Bucky Irving receiving this year. Both are around 50 catches. Rachaad White has 6 receiving touchdowns. One thing is really, really obvious. The Buccaneers spread the ball around. Mike, what is the most concerning part about this Buccaneers offense for you?
Oh, it's the receivers. Like you just went through them, and I was listening to our show week 1 before the Bucks game, and the show afterward after the Bucks game, and it's funny. We were worried. Well, at least I was worried about the secondary in that game in week 1, and sure enough, that's what the theme of the season was for the defense. The secondary was getting cooked for 18 weeks. It was no let up. They may have had a good game here or there, but even in those good games, it was like, I don't know, man. They played good, but a couple of inches here or there, and they still would have gotten cooked. So these receivers, even without Godwin this time, they're scary. And even with Lattimore, like it's not like Lattimore can check 5 receivers at one time. We're still going to be in trouble, even if he does lock up Evans. We've seen McMillan himself, I believe, score a touchdown against us week 1. So they have weapons that scare me. And then even if they don't throw the ball as much, we've seen again for 18 weeks that this team cannot stop the run. So Bucky Irvin or Rachaad White can go off on us on Sunday night. Like it's really, really scary hours for that defense on Sunday night. And it seems like every time I say this, they go out and they cook and then I come back the next show looking really dumb. But we have 18 weeks worth of data now on this defense. And I'm very concerned about stopping the run and the pass. And I hate to break it to y'all, but I'm just being real.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And they can do it all. Eric, who is one player on that Buccaneers team that is going to keep our defensive coordinator up at night?
Is Baker Mayfield. You see, you just gave us the stats, but the thing that really stood out in that first game, was he really killed us with his legs. He's not necessarily a scrambler. He's obviously not Jayden Daniels or Lamar Jackson or anybody like that, or even Josh Allen. But he is a very mobile quarterback, and you said it. He's got almost 400 yards rushing, and his ability to extend plays with his legs. Go back and watch that first game. He was slipping out of sacks and keeping plays alive and getting the ball downfield. He did it all game long. He really did it all season long. He's a tough quarterback to defend against because he really can. When he's on, he's a little streaky. That's his thing. So, like, if he's off, he's pretty bad. But, when he's on, I mean, he's as good as any quarterback in the NFL. Really good accuracy. The mobility is fantastic, and he's really the guy that makes that offense go. I think if Baker Mayfield isn't there, obviously this team doesn't average almost 30 points a game. That's for absolute certainty. And he's the guy that makes the whole thing go. I wouldn't be scared so much if Kyle Trask was out there, slinging it around. But Baker Mayfield is legit. He's a really good NFL quarterback, and when he's on, he's one of the best in the league. So he's really good. He's the guy that's going to keep the defensive coordinators up at night.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you can never ever count Baker out because he's always going to make a throw and he's always going to make a play to keep his team in it. Now, he will put the ball in harm's way because he has zero fear throwing that ball into coverage. But like you said, with his accuracy, it usually gets to its intended target. So any opportunities we have to turn the ball over, we got to take advantage of those things because we may not get many of them. All right. So when we flip the field on us, the Buccaneers on defense, they have 46 sacks on the year, I believe. For context, we have 43 on the year. And so their pass rush, their leading sack man is Cansey, their defensive tackle. followed by Levante David, who has 5.5. Cansey has 7.5. Diaby has 4.5 sacks, and Hall has 5.5 sacks. So they have some guys that can get to the pass rusher. I would not say it's a specialty of this defense, but what they will do is blitz you to death, especially on third down, to speed your clock up as a quarterback. So, Mike, what does Jayden Daniels need to be careful of this week?
Trying to be Superman. And I'm kind of contradicting myself because I said earlier he would need to become Peyton Manning and Mike Vick and go Super Saiyan in order for Washington to win the Super Bowl. But realistically speaking, he just has to let the game come to him. Don't try to force plays. And I feel like if he does that, the team will stay on schedule with moving the ball. He has to hit the throws when they become open and try not to go for the big plays. And a lot of people that watch tape were saying that in the Cowboys game in the first half, that's what he was doing. He was going for the big plays a lot. And I hope he just did that knowing that he had kind of a game to play with, kind of, the results, they matter, but they didn't really matter since we were making the postseason anyway. And that was just like an extended preseason game, so to speak, versus Dallas. But outside of that, it's not really much else I think he's capable of doing because he seems to be able to make the plays when the plays need to be made. It's just that sometimes I think that he goes overboard at trying to make the big play when instead it's first down, bro. You don't have to go for the kill shot. If Eckler's open for a 7-yard game, that is wonderful. And that's the type of play he needs to make. Now, if it's 3rd and 15 or whatever, and McLaurin 1-on-1 with a Bama, sure, air it out. But for the most part, it's the playoffs, it's the postseason. And one last point, I even heard a player talk about how in the postseason, you see teams, they kind of fill around for the first 3 quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, they let it rip. And I feel like that's the perfect example for Jayden Daniels. Keep it close. We know you go ham in the fourth quarter, so just keep it close. Gather as much intel about what they're trying to do to you that day, and then in the fourth quarter, let it out.
Yeah, it's like a boxing match where they just, first couple of rounds you're filling each other out, no really big shots, checking their timing, things like that. But Eric, our running game has just been abysmal the last few weeks. How much of a concern is that going to be against this Buccaneers defense?
Yeah, it's certainly not going to get better against the Bucs defense. The Bucs run defense is phenomenal with Vita Vea obviously in the middle. So, yeah, I mean, I don't look for any kind of a resurgence coming out of Brian Robinson and company this week because this ain't the defense. The 3-4 is traditionally difficult to run against. Tampa's 3-4 is nearly impossible to run against. They're just really stout against the run. They're very aggressive with their run blitzes. So, yeah, I don't look for a lot. I think most of the rushing yards this week, again, I'm not saying don't rush it. I just don't think you're going to have a lot of success. But I think most of the rushing yards, as has been the past few weeks, is going to come from Jayden Daniels scrambling. Because as good as they are against the run, Tampa's defense is not great against the pass. Has not been. They've got a lot of injuries in the secondary. I think probably Antoine Winfield's going to be back playing this week. He's been a little banged up, but they've got Bryce Hall, who was there in the first game. He's on injured reserve. Bunch of guys on IR, so they're kind of patchwork back there, which means they're just going to turn up the heat with the blitzing all the more. I think they're going to play a lot of zone defense, and they're going to do a ton of zone blitzing. And I don't think the run game is going to be that much of a factor because I just don't think. I think everybody knows you can't run. I think that there are going to be rushing attempts. I don't think anybody, Cliff Kingsbury included, is expecting to break off a 40 or 50-yard run against this defense. They just don't give them up. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a passing affair for the offense. Any kind of progress they make probably going to have to be through the air.
Which they can certainly do. I would expect that the Buccaneers are going to bring pressure. Like you said, I think they're going to probably try to bracket Terry as much as possible because that's proven to be effective in the last couple of weeks against us.
They don't do that, though. That's one thing that I've seen is that they really don't double up on top receivers. They just kind of trust their pass rush and their zone defense.
Yeah.
And Terry McLaurin's really good against the zone defense, but I would not expect them to actually try to lock him up because they don't have the secondary. Their secondary is a lot kind of in the same shape as what the Commanders is, where, if you don't have your top guy in there, your other guys aren't going to hold up very well no matter who they're going against. So there's going to be yards to be had for sure in
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but there will be opportunity. For context, in the first game we played the Bucs, Brian Robinson averaged 3.3 yards a carry. So just more reference to your point earlier, Eric. Mike, we've seen Zacchaeus step up lately. Diami was back. He looked relatively strong last week. How confident are you in the ability of the second tier receivers to be able to support if Terry does for some reason get locked down?
I have no confidence. No, I'm joking. No, so seriously, I've been thinking about this, and I'm talking about next season, but it has a point for this game. I like Diami Brown. I feel like he's had a good season for a WR4. And I know you're probably like, oh man, WR4, that's crazy. Nobody cares about a wide receiver four. In today's NFL, if you have a wide receiver four like Diami Brown, you're good. It's the upper echelon positions on the depth chart that Washington needs to worry about. So for this game, I think he's capable of stepping up, and I would like to see him step up, but I wouldn't bet any money on it. And as far as Zacchaeus, I don't know, man. Like dropping that trick play pass, I don't know. I think it kind of reverted him back to what people expected him to be, which is um, a fringe roster spot, things like that. But hopefully on Sunday night they can find a way to, perform at a high level, because I feel like it's going to be up to them to produce on Sunday, because even though the Bucs, they don't double, they don't do things like E was saying to star receivers, they're going to focus. They're still going to focus some attention on McLaurin, and I just don't I don't fully trust them. I'm hopeful, that they can do better, but I don't believe it. I hate going into a playoff game dependent on Diami Brown to be a WR2, not a WR4. Crowder, Zacchaeus, and McCaffrey. That is not a 2024 receiver core outside your receiver one. You need to do better than that. So I don't it's like I said, no confidence, but hopeful.
I can dig
I'm
it.
equally hopeful as I am not confident, if that makes any sense.
A balanced perspective, indeed. All right. Eric, I want to get you guys' opinion on all the playoff matchups outside of ours, but first, let's close this out with give me your score prediction and the key to the game, if you will.
My key to the game, if you look at the stats in the first game and really go back and watch it, Washington's wide receivers were basically a non-factor. Terry McLaurin had 17 yards receiving, but it was also Jayden Daniels' first game of his career, and he was very much reliant on his running backs and tight ends. Hopefully, that won't be the case this week, because I think he's clearly developed trust in Terry McLaurin and Olamide Zacchaeus and even Diami Brown. However, him and Terry have been very out of sync these past few weeks, and it's a little concerning. They just haven't been able to hit. Like either Jayden's missed him on some in-breaking routes, or Terry hasn't been able to hang on to the ball on some shot. But they've just been off. So hopefully we get that fixed, because that is a combo that really needs to be in sync going into this game, because that's the best hope, because they're going to have to put points up. This Bucs offense averages almost 30 points a game, so they're going to have to. The wide receivers are going to have to be a factor, and Terry McLaurin is going to have to be the main factor, because, like you said, we've got Terry and we've got 4 wide receiver 4s and no 2s or 3s. So I think the main factor in this is going to be Terry McLaurin. Again, I said early on, I don't love this matchup, so I'm going to pick against the good guys this week. I think we do get an early exit. it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think there's going to be plays to be made in the passing game, and I think it'll be close. But I'm going to go 30-27 Bucs, and that is my sad score prediction. But bigger things are ahead for next year, and I'll be more than happy to be wrong.
Okay. Pick against a home squad. I see how you do, man.
Roll.
Mike, what's your key to the game and your score prediction?
Key to the game, honestly, it's the defense, man. If the defense can find a way to limit Mayfield, and I'm sticking specifically to Mayfield because he's the engine that drives that Buccaneers car, the straw that stirs that drink. I looked at the stats, so I didn't watch the game. I just looked at the stats. Last week, they struggled to beat the Saints. Like, don't let that score fool you. The game was close throughout the game. But looking at the stats, I can tell what happened. Mayfield was getting out of there on the Saints running the ball on crucial plays. He has 6 rushes for 68 yards. Like Ali said in the beginning, that man is a dangerous threat with his legs. Even though he's not Vic or Jayden or Lamar or whatever, he can still beat you with his legs, and that's all you need. You don't need to scramble 50 yards, or you don't need a threat to take it to the house. A 5-yard run on 3rd and 4 is just as dangerous as a 50-yard touchdown.
Right.
And I feel like that's the key, that they're going to have to find a way to contain Baker, not only through the air, but on the ground. And when they get a chance to intercept it or sack them, they have to take advantage. Lulu, you can't drop interceptions. One is going to probably come your way on Sunday night. You cannot drop it.
Right.
Payne, Allen, Fowler. When y'all get the quarterback, get the quarterback. Don't let him hope, man. Like, he's a Houdini with his legs, but he can be taken down. Like, it's still Baker Mayfield at the end of the day. And with all that being said, I just feel like it might be too much for Washington to overcome. And this season, it might be too much for Washington to overcome. And that's why I'm a roll with Tampa. Man, give me 34, Washington 29.
Man, okay. Well, let me say this. My key to the game is Jayden under the lights, right? The bigger the moment, the better he plays. It's the playoffs, it's Sunday night football, prime time, right? Key games, all of that. The moments is going to be as big as it gets. I'm going to assume that Jayden shows up like he always does when the pressure's on him. And I want to say that the Commanders win this game relatively convincingly for a playoff game, right? I'm going to say Commanders 33, Buccaneers 26, right? And look, it's an away game. We're traveling, but it's warm. It's nice weather. He's from California. This plays right into his bag. And you know what time it is. And we have a coach. Now, Grant, they have a Super Bowl winning coach too, or not two. They have a Super Bowl winning coach, and we have a coach that's been to the playoffs, right? Or been to the Super Bowl. Now, it didn't go so well, but he's gotten there before. So we do have his leadership there. This is going to be a really interesting and fun game to watch. I just have faith that the Commanders are going to get the W. So leave your predictions in the comments for everybody listening, watching, whatever. Find the comment section, hit it, give us your predictions. Real quick, fellas, let me get your take on the other playoff games. Chargers, Texans, Eric. Who's winning that game?
The Chargers. Texans are limping into the playoffs. They're just not the same team they were. Well, they may be the same team they were last year, but the Chargers are not the team they were last year. I think the Chargers got this one.
Yeah. Generally, I agree with you. Mike, Steelers, Ravens.
Baltimore and a laugher. They are destroying Pittsburgh on Saturday night. You heard it here first. Pittsburgh has no chance.
Yeah. Baltimore is just on a heater, and Pittsburgh can't keep up with them offensively. Plus, their main wide receiver is just on some goofy stuff right now. So I don't think they got a chance. Eric, Broncos and Bills.
The Bo Nix Express pulls into the station this week. it's over. The Bills are going to just boat race the Broncos. Good season. Props to Bo Nix. I thought he was going to be a dud as a quarterback. I was very vocal about it. He's proven me wrong. He had a great season. He was just the right quarterback to run Sean Payton's offense. But I think, barring something catastrophic happening, there's no way that the Bills lose to the Broncos at home.
By the way, those Broncos uniforms that they wore on Sunday are top notch, man.
Greatest. They're so good. They need to switch back to those tomorrow.
Those are classic.
Mike doesn't agree.
I'm gonna put this.
I agree.
Oh, you shaking your head like you disagree.
I was on mute. I was like, "Ooh, them things were sweet."
I love it.
The Elway uniforms, the good ones.
Yep, helmet all the way to the cleats.
Those are the losing Super Bowl uniforms, unfortunately.
It's a great look, though. This is my upset alert in the AFC. I think that the Broncos have a shot here. Josh Allen in the playoffs, it can happen, right? He can turn the football over on you. So, and the Broncos have a very good defense too. So I can see it. Kick it over to the NFC. Mike, Packers, Eagles.
I have a quick caveat, real quick. I've never seen a fan base whine and complain so much off of a loss. Like, do you know they're still talking about the Eagles commander? The Eagles fans are still talking about that game from 3 weeks ago now? Yeah. Ridiculous, but I digress. Packers lost Watson. They have no deep threat. Their receivers are kind of iffy anyway. Jordan Love himself is kind of iffy. They're running into a buzzsaw with Philly. And just like I think Baltimore is destroying and the Steelers, I think the Eagles will equally destroy the Packers on Sunday.
If Jalen Hurts clears concussion protocol, he's still in concussion protocol, remember. So
I don't even think it matters. Really? I honestly don't even think it matters.
Yeah, they waived their third string quarterback today, so that probably means he's coming back.
I think the Packers have a shot. I think it's going to come on the heels of their running back, Josh Jacobs. He's been really good this year, and they have the Packers do have a couple of receivers who can make some plays. It's just, can they make enough, and can they stop Saquon? That's going to be the question for me.
That one's my upset alert for the week. I got the Packers in that one. Okay. Philly's going to be exposed for being the frauds that they are.
Yeah, I like it. And then you have Rams and Vikings, which might be the closest game of the weekend, man. This is a really, really fun game to think about, Eric. Who are you taking on this one?
I got the Rams.
Really?
Rams already beat them once this year, and the Rams are playing as good a football as any team in the league. Last week, obviously notwithstanding, because they benched everybody. But the playoff experience coming from Matthew Stafford and company, it's going to be too much. I think the Vikings, can Sam Darnold shake off that play from last week? We'll see. But I got the Rams here. My other upset alert, I guess. It's not really an upset because they're the higher seed and the home team, but they're not 14-3 either. But yeah, I got the Rams this week.
Yeah, I got it's interesting because Sam Darnold last week kind of proved that maybe Sam Darnold is still Sam Darnold when it really matters. And when you're 14-2, there's very little pressure on you during the season because you're not really fighting for your playoff life. But that being said, I think the Rams are a very effective team. They do have some flaws that can be exploited. I like Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator for the Vikings. I think the Vikings take this one. I think they take it pretty handedly just because they're the better team to me right now. Mike, you agree?
Yeah, I think the Rams, they're so up and down, and I just feel like their defense will struggle more against the Vikings offense than the Rams offense. Than the Vikings defense will struggle against the Rams offense. I think Flores had that defense cranking all year, and I think they'll find a way to slow down the Los Angeles Rams. And Darnold will do just enough to not have them lose. And there's the potential, depending on what happened, we can get Minnesota versus Detroit round 3. And you know what the saying goes, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. So the Lions should probably be cheering for the Rams. But I don't think they're going to get their wish.
Okay. It's a lot easier to beat a team 3 times in one season when you've already beaten them twice.
True story. Again, leave all your playoff matchup predictions in the comments, folks. We appreciate you riding with us. We'll catch you after the playoff game. Good luck. Go Commanders. Get your best playoff gear out. Root this team on like nobody's business because we're a 12-5 team heading into the playoffs. Commanders Declassified, we are out of here.